Hello, everyone. Welcome to another segment of A Coffee with Chekin. Today, we are here present with Bernardo from Homeit. Bernardo, thank you so much for your time speaking with us today.
Very welcome, Stephen. It's a pleasure to be here.
Amazing. So today's segment with A Coffee with Check-In is really based on remote access and how the industry has evolved with sort of this self and contactless check-in. I'm just going to jump straight into the first question, if you don't mind me asking, because I'm really curious to get your thoughts and opinions on how this has evolved. When we look at the industry in prop tech, more specifically remote access, how, in your own experience, have you seen that industry evolve maybe in the last 3 to 4 years, pre-pandemic, during the pandemic, and post-pandemic? Because I think it's a really important question, because here we talk about now contactless experiences. What's your experience been over the last couple of years within this type of industry?
Yeah. So Homeit started with the beginning. For like a straight answer is I think we're still in a very much beginning when it comes to remote access. I mean, we have with Homeit over 5,000 properties with our system, and mostly in Portugal and Spain. And of course, there's a lot more properties in Airbnb, right? So only in Lisbon we had registered 20,000 properties. So I think
Wow.
is still very early for the prop tech industry, and to really come and show what's all about and what are the main advantage. Actually, one of the experience I have with Homeit is that people that come to us, they already have a problem in their hands. It's not something they wake up one day and it will be nice to have a smart lock at my short rental. It's something that it derives from a pain that they're experiencing, and people, some they have their pain, and others they are not feeling. They are very comfortable with all the manual process. We are a species of habits, I guess, and it's very easy to just keep doing what has been working. Interestingly, I have hosts seeing being guests in other properties, and they kind of like see the keypad or see kind of for example, a minute, which is another equipment that can sense noise and everything, and they become curious and they want it for their own properties, and which is a kind of interesting phenomenon. But yeah, answering your question, I think we're still very much in the beginning. The pandemic, I think some people just obviously stop operating and were not investing in new equipments. Others were taking advantage of this just to prepare and redo all their processes. And of course, with cutting, unfortunately, with the pandemic, they had to cut some of them teams and people in their own operations. So they had to do the same or prepare to do the same with less people. And I think automatization is the only way forward. And so right now we are starting to see a peak here. After pandemic, we see that we're almost similar to 2019. Perhaps you probably know better these numbers, but I think we're below 20% from 2019, which is a massive increase if we take into consideration that these last 2 years were they were stopped in terms
Yeah.
of reservations and everything.
Yeah, of course. It's interesting you say that we are creatures of habit. A lot of the people that still do sort of the manual processes and that are fine with that may not really fully appreciate or become aware of what something such as remote access can offer when it comes to the guest experience. In my case, for example, we work with a lot of clients that work one-on-one with guests. They don't want to lose that one-on-one experience, but what remote accessing is allowing is complete flexibility. You don't have to be aware of what time they're arriving. They can be completely flexible if there's delays in their travel or whatever, things like that. It's giving them that complete freedom to sort of arrive without having to go collect the manual keys and everything. What has been sort of your experience when talking to people using systems such as Homeit, digital locking devices, what has been their sort of major benefit of offering this remote access to the guest, opposed to manual key collection or having an employee go to the apartment to be able to hand over the keys and then go to the next one and repeat?
I think it's such a massive change, and some people are aware the amount of time they are saving, or at least imagine that the average host spends like what 1 hour waiting for their guests, because it's really hard to have the match between, like, ideally the host arrives on time, the guest arrives on time,
Yeah.
but still it's the travel cost, and you cannot be at two places at the same time. My customers, they have a life, they have family, and most of the times this becomes a problem. I feel like they're almost kind of, they are just tired and start almost hating their guests for being late, or for the because they feel that they are wasting their time. I think this is the main benefit of Homeit. This is for people that have short rentals. They are not their main job, perhaps, and this is the main benefit for them, is that they can do more. They are struggling to keep everything organized, and then with the tools such as Homeit and Chekin, they can save a lot of time. So this is advent for them. And then we have the professionals, and yesterday I was even had a call with some of new customers that has a big operation in Madrid and Seville, and I had a meeting, like, with him and his colleagues, and they were just like, "Oh my God, we're gonna change this process of being in the apartments." And they were like, because he was introducing to the colleagues, like, "Okay, we're changing this," and I think they're, "Wow, yeah, this is." I was showing the app, and like you can open the door remotely, and you can just create codes, and they can just, and they seem really excited, and because it's they're gonna save a lot of time. I was imagining that they were thinking, okay, this hassle with keys is gone. It's yesterday's. I'm not gonna be have to be there or waiting. So I think it's a major boost in productivity and
Yeah.
quality of life as well. I think this summarizes it quite well. Of course, economically, it makes sense, but it saves time, and everything is more smooth. So everything is smoother with the guest, and even for the guest, we previously we call it like, have you do you have a fast check-in in your apartment, and in a way to sell the Homeit concept to hosts for their guests. And I think this also is an interesting perspective. Like, guests can just do it if they want to stop to have lunch before going to the apartment. They can do it. They have all the flexibility they want, like you're saying.
Yeah, definitely. I think the flexibility is super important, especially in this day and age. In some of the previous calls I had, and I was actually speaking to Marcus, the co-founder of Hostway, last time, that we are becoming a species that is the most probably
Pampered.
impatient
Yeah,
type
and
of
pampered.
species
Yeah,
ever. Exactly. We have no patience. We want everything done now and then, which I guess makes sense considering the way technology has started to progress in our life and everything is becoming easier and automated. And it's essentially you want that speed, but also that flexibility. And I think that's something that's really important in the guest experience as of late, more so for vacation rentals, because we aren't going to a specific establishment where everything is located in one building. We are going to individual properties that may be
that's
located all
true.
around a large city or a large territory. And just knowing that everything is taken care of before you arrive, you had your access code, you know you can go there, you know it's available. It gives that peace of mind. And it
Absolutely.
really makes it easier for the guest. I'm curious on your thoughts though. Like, so we always talk about the positives, and we always talk about how important it is to automate and have a great guest experience and offer that flexibility. But I'm curious to know, because I think about it a lot, is what would be the hurdles? So what are the challenges at the moment for implementing sort of this type of automated process, do you think? I'll give you an example. Is some of the hurdles is we actually come a lot with people that perhaps they're an Airbnb management company. They don't own the properties. So it's not in their control whether to put a digital lock in. It might be, the proprietor or the owner of the property just isn't either fully aware or fully committed to make that leap. Do you know of any other hurdles that people listening actually might, think, okay, yeah, I understand that, and they'd be able to look at it from a different point of view?
I mean, I was the major hurdles. I mean, in terms of adopting a tool like this,
Yeah.
when you have it or thinking about it, should I install it or not?
Yeah, thinking about it. So those people that might be out there going, okay, I want to do that, but I'm a bit worried. There's probably challenges out there. There might be some difficulties when deciding on starting to implement such a process.
Yeah, I mean, for one hand, it's the investment, like you're saying. If it's a property manager who's going to pay for this, it's gonna be to install inside the apartment, right? So it should be the property owner to make this investment. Uh, and usually, yeah, the interests are not aligned. The property owner doesn't feel the pain, right, of the check-ins, of
Hmm.
being there on time, of wasting time, and uh, it might be sensitive to the risk, security risk of somebody copying their keys. But usually, what I try to say is that Homeit is a tool for your business, for your operation, and if you're managing an apartment, this is a decision you have to take. And luckily, the technology has evolved even in the smart systems that you can easily install and easily take it out. So this is becomes if for some reason the contract ends with the property owner, you can just easily install the product and install it somewhere else. The other adoption is like uh, adoption hurdles is like, will it work? And I think this because it's the first time they're seeing something like this for the most part. So
Yeah.
it's a bit of distrust in technology. What if it doesn't work? Is it safe? Uh, on the other hand, I had other customers that just install and assume that because it's automating they are automating that it's in pilot mode, so they don't have to do anything or not paying attention. So they just assume it's going to work and take care of itself. And we have to make that onboarding. Say, hey, these are the alerts. If there's no internet, this is what happens. Also have a plan B if something like doesn't go as planned because everything systems fail, even the keys. So try to make them also responsible for adopting this technology and making sure that has maintenance and everything is working well.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is the main things I would say for adopting a technology. And of course, I mean, in the particular case of Homeit, there are so many different doors. So this is another thing. So there are some doors that are compatible, the most of the doors, but then we have like these strange doors that. So we need to check the photos. So this is also a compatibility question. Also that
Hmm.
counts.
Yeah, no,
It's
that
not
totally
it's
makes
not
sense.
plug and play. Yeah.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. I have the experience when I worked with someone, and they had front doors that were about 150 years old. Now you can imagine in Spain and Portugal, you get these stunning
Yeah.
buildings, but they are, tens or hundreds of years old, and you have these massive wooden doors that
Yeah.
doesn't have this little lock that you can put a key in. It's not. It's probably the old key that's about half a meter long that you have to move with both hands to be able to open it. So yeah, sometimes there are compatibility issues, but we're getting around that hurdle, which is great. But you actually touched on something there related to security. Um, in my previous experience when discussing remote access with not clients, with businesses, with tech enthusiasts, it's always sort of related back to how secure you can make it. So if we're offering remote access into our properties, um, guests or hosts should probably follow some steps prior. Companies out there, I mean, Chekin's one of them. They do ID verification, data collection, and stuff. Is there any advice that you would give to someone that is going to start offering remote access on how they can feel comfortable of doing that without actually seeing the guest in person, and knowing that, well, okay, if we are offering remote access into properties, at least I know that the guest perhaps is who they say they are, or at least I'm comfortable by doing so when I'm not going to see them in person.
Yeah, I think Chekin is a great tool for that. It gives you a lot of assurance. Like you have the scan ID feature, right? And so there's still bureaucracy, but it's kind of this comforting bureaucracy where you can see like, okay, this is the person that is coming in, and I think communication is also key, for this. I mean, it doesn't mean that if the person goes there and let themselves in, that you just forget about them. So I
Yeah.
think, but I think it's the opposite. I think having a smart lock there, or having this kind of digital process, doesn't replace the communication. So you should do that and make sure everything is going right, and do the and if you want to do a video call, whatever, and just make sure that the guest is feeling comfortable with the process, and if everything, just to check if everything is going smoothly. But we are seeing this. I think most of hosts already have the WhatsApps of their guests, so they are in
Mhm.
constant communication. We see that. And I don't think this is like security is more making all the questions to your providers. Are my digital codes safe? Who's going to have the data for the customers? But I think in the case of Check-in, you answer well this kind of questions. So uh, yeah, I think it's basically about giving information and to hosts that their data is secured, and maybe explain the technology a bit, like the Bluetooth is encrypted, the communications are encrypted, and this is the way you and it's we use locks that are certified in terms of security. So yeah, give the information and make them feel comfortable.
Yeah.
Uh,
No, that's a good point you made. Especially the communication part. I think a lot of when we talk to hosts or property managers, I think sometimes what happens is they think automation there is to completely replace everything they do, and I think that's a misconception. You'll speak to someone within the property management business or short-term rental business, and they'll say, "Oh, I don't want to automate that. I still want to see my guests in person." That doesn't effectively stop you from automating some of the tedious parts. And then
mhm.
by automating some of the tedious parts, which might be key collection, it might be data collection, it might be a lot of different things, what you're actually allowing yourself to do is sort of free up time to then give the guest the best experience possible. Rather than being with the guest, asking for data, providing keys, you can still
Absolutely.
be with the guest, but you'll be telling them about the city. You'll be telling them about different things to do around the area and giving that one-to-one experience, knowing that the tedious administrative tasks are already done. You don't have to worry about that. So I think that's a misconception with automation. It's not there to entirely replace everything. It's there to help. It's there to give you your guests the best experience possible, and also take away the stress, like you mentioned earlier, and the time from some of the tasks that you might not have to do manually, which is
Yeah,
really important these days. No, that's great. And I'm really curious to get your thoughts as well, because this is probably quite a new industry and related to hotels, for example. Of course, we know that Airbnb, short-term rentals, we're still in sort of the complete ramp-up phase of what we can get to. We've seen a massive boom in tech in the last 2 to 3 years, remote access, ID verification, online check-in, so many different varieties of prop tech that's starting to become aware in the industry, and people are starting to become adopters of different types of solutions in the market. When it comes to probably the guest experience and arrival, and how this is all coming about, how do you see this going in the next 2 to 3 years? You yourself working in remote access, have you already thought about what this will look like in the next 2 to 3 years, where we should sort of start looking into innovate? Because I try to think about it, and it's quite hard to think, right, we've got remote access, how can it evolve from here? So I'm curious to know if like maybe you've thought about that and maybe where you think this will be going.
well, I think it's a good question. I've talked with a one of our customers, and he told me, because I don't have short rentals, so I have to look for also for these insights with customers, and one of them is, and I agree with him, that is he said that the communication, having a app or somewhere where you could recommend routes, recommend places, and this kind of communication with guests. Maybe it's the one of the next trends for short rentals, to have all the information and this communication with the host in the palm of your hand. And and or ask for a breakfast in your apartment, everything integrated in one shop where you can do everything
Yeah,
there. This could be a trend, yeah. And then, of course, the smart home in your apartment, meaning that you're gonna be able to kind of understand what's going on in terms of the lights, if they're or the air condition, or if there's noise there. So your property will be more in your control, and making sure there, imagine water leaks or
sure.
gas leaks or something like this. So I think this would be also important for the apartments in the next years. We are seeing a lot of new products on that part, sensing the home, smart home for a professional customer, because there's a lot of offering for consumer, but not so much for the professional.
Yeah, we need the Uber Eats of property management. We need
Yeah, that's true.
just everything as such. No, that's a great point. I love smart homes. To be fair, I was a bit skeptical of all the smart tech um, in your home because it takes a while to get used to. But once you start using it in your day to day and turning on lights and opening your door, turning off things, you start to really depend on it. And society's really going that way, and it sort of just helps to gain that experience, whether that's for your own home or for the guest experience. It just makes everything so much more simple, and so much easier.
It's,
And I'm really looking forward to it.
yeah, imagine, like, I know that, for example, it's with the guests have a really hard time to know where the TV turns on, right,
Yeah,
and where's the change the channel, stuff like this. And well, and I think it will, or how the remote access, sorry, how the air condition works. So this will have to be more streamlined, I think, in the future, so that the guest has no, like, everything is clear and well communicated. It doesn't waste time looking for how things work. So, like, instructions for the washing machine, for example, stuff would be in the same information in an app.
yeah,
I know, like, Airbnb is, like, even the app has some, I think, is evolving on that sense as well. There are instructions for a lot of things, the check-in instruction, but also there are new players in that area, and I think this will be cool to see.
yeah. I think we've all went into an Airbnb before and seen that folder on the table that you
Yeah,
open, and it's
yeah,
about a 60-page
yeah.
summary of how everything works, and you're going through the pages and seeing, instead
It's
of
true.
just having it sort of on this one landing page where you see all the different menus and categories, and you can start to see how it works and even utilize it from that application.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's true. Like, the Wi-Fi password, the instructions, checkout time, stuff like this. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I had one experience in Madrid. We went to Fitor, one of the good events that wasn't cancelled. Thankfully, we were able to go to Madrid. We were able to go to one of the biggest tourism conferences and see people. And we had a stand there and everything. And when we were staying there, we were staying at an Airbnb, and it was sort of half and half automated. I had to go collect my key, but when I got there to collect my key, it was an automated lockbox. So I feel like, okay, we're halfway there. I had to use an alternative route, 20 minutes to get the key that was already in an automated lockbox. It could have been perhaps at the property or as a key, as a digital locking device.
Yeah.
And then when I got to the apartment, there were instructions on the table, but then also I had some instruction on my mobile device as well. So it's good to sort of see that we're starting to slowly adapt to the next new technology in the sector. We're starting to slowly adapt to automation helping us rather than replacing us as well. Um, and really just help, like you said earlier, all about that time and everything. It's kind of exciting. Just before we end up here, we've been going for about 24 minutes, so we'll start slowing it down. Is there anything you'd like to discuss? Any questions you would like to put out there? Just curiosity, really.
No, I mean, I think you've launched a new guest app, right? I haven't had the chance to see it. So, do you think it goes, like, in this trend of everything in one place?
Yeah, our new guest
That,
lab was launched.
yeah. So,
Our new guest lab was launched last 2 weeks. Well, that's what we're trying to do. We say guest app, but it's still actually web app, so it's still on it's still browser compatible. We still avoid having to
Downloading.
download
Yeah,
things. Yeah.
that's
I think that's what we try to see these days. Like if you go to the Hiltons, Maris, if you go to all these different places, everyone wants you to download an
download.
application. I don't want to keep downloading applications. I don't think anyone wants to keep downloading applications. So it's still a web race, but that's what we're trying to do, trying to solidify every single thing in one single place. Whether that's the online check-in part or the ID verification part, whether that's the upselling part or where you access the button to open the door or your key codes, literally one single place where the guest can check in. And then if they're a repeat customer, what we're going to do soon is if they are a repeat customer, they can essentially create an account, they can check in once, and then if they check into another property that uses check-in, it's a one-click check-in. So they just have to press a button, and since we have all the data since before they, been into this sort of online digital ecosystem of our check-in process, with one click of a button, they can go through the entire process and simply access all the information they need.
Wow, that's great. The one
That's
click
what
is
we're
like
trying to
the
do.
Amazon of checking, like the one click buy, one click purchase. All
Yeah,
right,
we
that's
didn't start with books though.
yeah, with books, with apartments. Okay, that's nice. Yeah, I mean, I'm looking for also for this for the improving of our also integration. I think it's. I think you nailed it there. Like you can see like the when to send it the code or the check-in instructions 3 days before, 1 week before, 24 hours. You can customize this with also for with
Yeah.
with custom messages. I think this is cool, and I think we can. I'm looking for that more customers use that this integration, give us feedback, so and to let us know how is it going.
Yep, perfect, exactly. So we'll wrap up there. Thank you all for listening. If you do want to learn more about the integration between Check-in and Homemate, please feel free to either get in touch with Bernardo or the Check-in team here. We'll be more than happy to show you how everything works and how you can start digitizing and automating your remote access into your properties. Bernardo, thank you so much for your time. It was an absolute pleasure getting
Thank
to
you so
pick your
much, Steve.
brains a little bit.
Great
Uh,
initiative.
it was brilliant. Thank you so much. Guys, thank you for listening. We will see you in the next segment of A Coffee with Check In. We hope you have an amazing week and we'll speak to you soon.
Bye.
Fernando, thanks again.
Bye. Thank you.
Take care.